Round our croeso. Good afternoon and welcome to this multi-location meeting of Cabinet Scrutiny Committee on the 30th of November 2022. I'm Councillor Phil Rogers and I will be chairing this meeting. Please could you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually viewing this meeting could raise your electronic hand, and for members in the council chamber, just raise your hand. For the purpose of declarations, I would like to confirm that we will scrutinise item 6 and the urgent item 13 on the Cabinet papers. Now I will move on to the declarations agenda item 2. Declarations of interest. Before I ask for declarations of interest, can I firstly bring in Craig Griffiths to provide some advice? Craig.
Thank you very much, Chair. So as members will know, there's a report on the agenda today regarding the school strategic improvement plan. This proposal is a new and fresh decision that members will make. So the fact that you may have voted in a particular way at a previous meeting will not amount to predetermination, provided you retain a genuinely open mind in respect of this new meeting. As you will know, when arriving at decisions relating to any of the Council's business, you must do so with an open mind and consider all the information before you objectively, having due regard to the advice of officers. During the decision-making process, you must act fairly and in the public interest. You are required to make your decisions on the basis of the facts in front of you and not to have made up your mind in advance of the meeting. If you consider that you have come to a settled view or decision in respect of this matter and are unable or unwilling to take into account any other representations of advice, or a member of the public may feel that taking into account all this matters that there is a risk of the same, you will in all likelihood have been seen to be predetermined the matter. Accordingly, if you feel you have predetermined your position, you should not be taking part in any vote. Predetermination can not only invalidate the decision, it could lead to proceedings being brought against the council, and it may also amount to a breach of the member's code of conduct, and this would be the opportunity for you to declare that. I would add you are entitled to hold a preliminary view about a particular matter in advance of a meeting. This is what we know as predisposition, as long as you keep a genuinely open mind and are prepared to consider the merits of all the arguments and points made about the matter under consideration before reaching your decision. It should be noted that this issue is one for members to decide. For the sake of clarity, I would add that manifesto commitments and policy statements which are consistent with a preparedness to consider and weigh relevant factors when reaching a final decision are examples of legitimate predisposition, not predetermination. In addition, previously expressed views on matters which arrive for decision in the ordinary run of events are routine, provided you are able to approach this matter with an open mind. I think it's just important to clarify those issues to members, but thank you, Chair.
Thank you, very clear. Thank you, Craig. Are there any declarations of interest? If any members have declarations in relation to any reports on today's agenda, can you please indicate now? Alison will take down the declarations, if any. Councillor Allen Llewellyn, please, Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, but I think it's in order for me to declare an interest with dispensations to speak and vote, because I'm a governor at Ysgol Ystafela Brodir, which is within the Swansea Valley area, although not named specifically in the report.
Councillor James Henton, please.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the same, but with the new Welsh school in Neath.
Thank you, Councillor Henton. The Democratic Services Officer will forward an electronic version of the form for you to complete and email back to her. Agenda item 3, pre-decision scrutiny. We will now move to the Cabinet agenda for pre-decision scrutiny. As previously mentioned, we've decided to scrutinise item 6 and the urgent item 13 on the Cabinet agenda. Item 6, Strategic School Improvement Programme. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report, please? Andrew Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. You will have to excuse me today. I'm struggling a little bit with flu or cold or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure what it is. The only thing I would add is I would want to re-emphasise something that Craig just said in his opening address, in that this is a fresh, new consultation around a proposal for school reorganisation in the Swansea Valley. We all know that when the current administration took power, they had a commitment to review the decision, which had previously been taken by the former cabinet. And there's obviously the issue of the judicial review, which quashed the former decision and required us to start fresh consultation. So, you know, if members approve consultation day, we will be urging members of the interested communities to take part fully in it, for them to understand that this is a fresh consultation, a new consultation. It's not a re-consultation because there is no such thing. This is a new process under the Schools Organisation Code. So I just wanted to make that very clear, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. That being so, we'll move on to any questions for the officers. We have a few lined up already. First one in is, if I could ask for Councillor Suzanne Patterson, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, I didn't realise I was first on your list. Okay, Mike, I have two questions. My first question is, I would like to know who made the decision for this to just be a cabinet only decision, this cabinet scrutiny today, sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up, rather than a joint education cabinet decision, because I feel that the new administration are very, very keen to consult with the public, and that's fine, but we do have seasoned members of Education Committee who could have added their expertise to this scrutiny decision today. I am aware that they are entitled to attend, but they would not be entitled to vote. So their attention would be, they could come and speak, but it wouldn't really add any weight to what they thought as the experts in the Education Committee. So that's my first question, please.
Thank you, Suzanne. We'll ask the Chair of Education, please, if she could reply to this, please. Sorry, Cabinet Member.
Yes, sorry, I can't see with my glasses on. When we discussed it previously, as this is purely just to ask permission to go out to consultation, not to make any decision on the outcome of it, that's why it's come to Cabinet, because it's literally, can it go out or can it not? But we're fully aware and fully on board that when it comes to actual decision making, yes, education scrutiny should certainly be involved as well.
I thank her.
Thank you, Neath. Can I bring in now Chief Executive, please, Karen?
If I can just add to the response that you've been given, I have given this in writing as well. I know Councillor Reynolds has seen a copy of the advice I gave last night. It is not for the executive to decide how matters get scrutinised. It is for scrutiny to decide how it carries out its scrutiny functions. So today's meeting has been called in line with the constitution provisions. What I've suggested is that there's a meeting supported by the Head of Democratic Services with the chairs of scrutiny to remind scrutiny chairs of the provisions that we've got within the Constitution to call joint meetings for people other than the members of the committee to attend. And what I would suggest, Councillor Patterson, if the members of the Education Scrutiny Committee feel it's important that they are present when the future reports around this particular proposal come back, then I think it would be a good exercise for us to sit down after Christmas and just make sure that that is clear. But I think, having sort of read the question last night, just reflected on, there's probably work for us to do to just make sure that scrutiny committees have got that advice that is actually for them to decide how they scrutinise and what they scrutinise as well. So I would just make that point. So I understand what Councillor Jenkins has said, and I think that's absolutely a reasonable position to take. But just to underline, it's not for the executive to decide how you scrutinise. It is for scrutiny to decide that. And I think probably what we need to help people to do is to use the forward work programmes better, to look at what's coming up and then make some decisions in good time as to whether we're calling individual meetings, joint meetings, task and finish groups or whatever. And hopefully, I know that there's some work, Craig, isn't there, that we're planning to do with the Support of Wales Audit Office to support the work of scrutiny committees over the coming years as well. And I think that's an extra bit of support than the scrutiny committees could probably use as well to best effect.
Thank you, Mayor Campbell.
Thank you, Karen. Could I just bring in Councillor Rebecca Phillips first to respond as well, please?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm in and out of signal. I'm in quite a bit busy place at the moment, but I do note the concerns that I've received from members of the Education Scrutiny Committee. Unfortunately, I only received these concerns after I sent an email directly to them yesterday. So in future, if they do have concerns regarding, holding joint scrutiny committees, then I would be really grateful if they could bring them to me prior to the meeting so I can flag these up with Democratic Services and with the leadership as well, which I have done, and I've had reassurances that when this item does come for decision, we will be included as the Education Scrutiny Committee. So I just wanted to reassure members of that. Okay, diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Obviously, we've duly noted as well, Councillor Patterson. Okay, would you like to add anything else?
Thank the Cabinet Member, Chief Exec and the Chair for their responses there. It does make things so much clearer. Thank you. And we will note what the Chair has just said. So that was my first question. My second one holds you. Okay, we note this is a scrutiny decision for consultation. So in order that to ensure impartiality at public meetings, they need to be council officer led. This will ensure facts and not prejudice are presented and will minimise bias or prejudice one way or the other. I'm not saying either way. The previous administration couldn't hold public meetings because at that time we were restricted because of COVID. But at the moment, there are no restrictions, and I couldn't see in the report. I mean, it may be implied, it might be going to happen, but I'm just asking the question, will they be public meetings? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Could I bring Andrew Thomas back in here, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. We will, as we always do, follow the consultation requirements to the letter of the law in terms of the code. And that requires, and I can confirm that some of the consultation requirements will be undertaken face to face.
Thank you, Chair. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Good response. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. On next, please, to Councillor Sonia Reynolds, please.
Thank you. I'm inquiring about something that is to do with what should happen if we do decide to go ahead with consultation, and the consultation should, by some freak event or some event, show that there is reason to change the decision, and there is a good reason to change the decision, then what would be the consequences going forward? The director has already confirmed to the Education Committee quite clearly that the council would not be able to draw down money from Welsh Government should that be the case. So my understanding is that there would be a need to draw up a new business case. And I think it needs to be clear before we go to consultation what the consequences would be. That's why I'm asking this question. And if a new business case were to be developed for any alternatives that might seem feasible, how long would that process of drawing up the business case take? And also, when would be the next opportunity, given that the coalition has just submitted, and we've all agreed to submit the Band C school proposals to Welsh Government, when would be the next opportunity to submit that business case to Welsh Government for funding? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Back to you, please, Andrew Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. If we get to the end of this process, and as I said, this new fresh process, and the decision by Cabinet is not to progress with the proposal which we're consulting on. One assumes that at that point there would be a preferred option to pursue in terms of investment. So the £22.5 million, which is currently available to Neath Talbot, would no longer be available. We wouldn't be able to draw that down. Sonia, you're quite right. We'd have to submit a new business case to Welsh Government. We could do that immediately. As soon as this process is concluded. Obviously, depending what that is, there'll be work required to work that up. It's quite a detailed, 5-case business model. It's complex, so that will take months. We'll submit that. I mean, our timescales, I couldn't tell you because I'm aware that there's some conversation around when we start consultation as well. So depending on when we start consultation, that will have some impact on when we conclude this process one way or the other. But we would be able to submit a business case sort of outside of the Band C window, if you like. But that very much depends on when this process concludes. And at the end of this conclusion, it'll then take months to work up the new business case and submit to the Welsh Government. And of course, there's absolutely no guarantees whatsoever the Welsh Government would agree that. But they would take a couple of months at least to consider it, because they have their capital panels, only every so often. So it's quite a long, drawn-out process, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Reynolds, would you like to come back?
So if that was the case, we'd be massively needing to extend the life of the pool in Pontardawe, which doesn't look that feasible just at the moment. And we would also be having to find an alternative site or leave children from Godregraig in temporary accommodation for an extended period of time.
Certainly the latter of all those things you just said, Sonia, would definitely be the case. I mean, the Pontardawe swimming pool thing is probably a little bit more vague, but the one thing I can guarantee is clearly what you've just said would require those pupils and those families and staff to be in those temporary accommodation for longer.
Thank you, Andrew.
And of course, we have still a discerning need for ALN spaces, which we couldn't fulfil. So thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Rob Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. With all the documentation that's linked to this matter today and with the reflective accounts and previous decision making, I would beg your indulgence to pose 3 basic questions based on the following statement. Education is a basic human right that's enshrined in the 1989 UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the definition according to the UN is that education transforms lives, eradicates poverty and drives sustainable development. Not one mention there of anything to do with location of where the education is received. But from the 4 pillars of learning that were produced by the International Commission on the 21st Century Commission, education is a basic building block of every society. And it is the single best investment countries can make to build prosperity, health, and equitable societies. This is also enshrined in Article 26 of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that everyone has the right to education. The areas focusing for education is functionality of the school, leadership of management and communication, governance and relationships, quality of teaching and learning, curriculum provision and resources, and learner achievement. Again, not one mention under those focuses of education of location as to where education is delivered. I do believe that scrutiny is for scrutiny members, not cabinet members. They have their own meeting following the decision-making process. However, I would directly ask Councillor Llywelyn, what difference will the request to go out to consultation again make? If it's an outcome that is not liked for those who are pushing it, Councillor Llywelyn, as the leader of the PLAI group, led the last refusal acceptance, and it was never accepted, the last consultation outcome or decision. And before anyone starts jumping up and down, The point that I'm making here is that we followed Welsh Government's guidelines and policies in relation to this. And the judicial review, unless it was appealed as the judge gave us the right to do, we will never know if that appeal would have been successful as it was not tested. And on that point, who in the coalition, this is first question, made the decision without consulting the Education Scrutiny and/or this committee for approval in that decision? Costs should not enter into the decision-making process where the future of our children are at stake. Perhaps, Chair, you would give Councillor Llewellyn an opportunity to answer that later, or even Mr Griffiths. Can I ask Mr Andrew Thomas to confirm that, just in case there's any doubt on the path that we may be entering in and embarking on here today, that Welsh Government are most definitely unlikely to fund any new replacements for single schools without robust business cases? Linking this to the urgent item today and the press release yesterday, it's quite ironic that the Pont Dowie may now lose its swimming pool and the knock-on effect that that will have on our children's ability to learn to swim without travelling to other venues, and the extent of well-being and the general populations for that area potentially without that facility. The previous decision taken over this matter by the Labour administration had a 21st century vision to deliver 21st century education. It's at the heart for our young people, coupled with 21st century provision of welfare and leisure facilities. In the recent press release from this council and the accompanying report with the Band C schools, it's the success of the Band A and B schools delivered by the previous Labour administration that leads with the statements from pupils, staff and governors as to how successful these schools are and a pleasure to learn and work in.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Yeah, there's quite a few points there. We're going off the point a bit. If I could...
I've got two statements left. Two short
okay,
sentences.
thank you.
Is it now the council's practice, with NIMBYism and/or politics over education, that we deliver no plans for Welsh medium schools in the east of the county borough, where children living in my ward will be required to travel miles across for Welsh medium education, far greater than those in Pontardawe? And my final point, Chair, should the vote go for a new consultation, will Councillor Llewellyn and the Plaid Group give an assurance to this committee that he and the group will uphold its outcomes and recommendations this time? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Shall we come to you, please, first, Andrew Thomas?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. I think the question that I was asked was, will we need to submit a robust business case to secure any further investment? Absolutely. I mentioned earlier the Treasury 5-case business model, which we're required to complete. It is quite a strict format. There are tests within there which we are required to meet and prove. So any capital investment through the 21st Century Schools or Sustainable Communities for Learning programme, as it currently is, will have to have a robust business case, as has always been the case, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Over to Councillor Arlene Llewellyn, then, please, to respond.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Pleased to accept the question. And of course, Councillor Jones did refer to reflecting, and you know, I'm sure that Councillor Jones will reflect, you know, on some of the reasons why there's been a previous delay in this process. But I think that the commitment by the incoming administration was to review based on the views and responses to the previous consultation, but it is a new consultation as advised by our legal officers, and that's the basis on which we will be considering, and I'm sure that's the basis on which the Scrutiny Committee will be considering the outcome of the consultation as well. So, you know, Councillor Jones won't expect me to predetermine my response to what is a completely new consultation. And of course, it's being held on two bases. You know, one is that there was a commitment to review. We don't know what the outcome of that review will be or its feasibility, but also, of course, there has been a legal case, which means that this new review absolutely has to take place, and all the responses and all the advice will be taken in the round as we go forward with the process if we decide to commence the review today.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn. Councillor Jones, would you like to come back?
Yeah, there's still the question about the judicial review and testing of the appeal in relation to that matter, and whether in fact the coalition will stand by the review's results in relation to this process.
Councillor Llewellyn?
Well, I think, as I said, Chair, that we will consider, and it's not just myself, obviously, but perhaps I understand why the question is being directed at me. But we will consider all of the responses. We will consider all of the outcomes and feedback. Plus all the advice that's available and the financial feasibility of any proposals or counter proposals. I mean, I don't think I can elaborate much more than that today, because that is the process that will be set out, and we will be encouraging everybody to participate, everybody who's got an interest in the schools and in education in the Swansea Valley, because we're talking about parents, we're talking about school communities, we're talking about the wider community. So in terms of the rights of those stakeholders, they have a right to be heard and for their views to be considered. That's among the rights, I think, that Councillor Jones surely was referring to in his comments earlier on. So I think that's where we are really, and until the process begins.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn. If I could, because it's on the same issue, could I bring in our leader, Councillor Steve Hunt, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There's not a lot to add to what Alan has said. However, I'm sure Rob and the Labour Group would acknowledge that meaningful and thorough consultation that is carried out. Now, there may have been some issues or problems that has been highlighted by members earlier in the conversation when COVID came in face to face. So I'm not suggesting that the intention wasn't to do a thorough, meaningful consultation, but some of the information and feedback clearly shows from the communities that we are referring to, they felt there wasn't that process carried out properly, and only recently in a public meeting that we attended, that meeting suggested the same thing. Now, it was a commitment as a coalition, so that commitment is where we are today in this recommendation, and hopefully the process will conclude after all the evidence and information is gathered, taking recommendations and views from our very capable officers here in Neath Talbot to make a decision at the time when it happens, including scrutiny from education. Those that aren't full council, I'm sure, will have their opportunity to feed into the process after the consultation results have been brought back to council. So let's get on with this consultation. Let's give the communities their new consultation, and let's see where that takes us at the end of it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. If I could move along now then, please, to Councillor Ken Phillips, please.
Excuse me, Chair. I haven't had a response.
Sorry, Councillor Jones, you want to come back again?
I haven't had a response from Mr. Griffiths in relation to the judicial review. And just to remind people, the judicial review, we lost on the Welsh language impact assessment, not on consultation.
Craig Griffiths in then, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor Jones. So members will know, obviously, the outcome of the judicial review was that the decision was quashed, and just to emphasise what Councillor Jones said, it was lost on ground one on the basis that a Welsh language impact assessment hadn't been included within the consultation document. When you were dealing with judicial reviews, you've got a very tight time scale if you wanted an appeal ultimately to be lodged. So in order to make the determination whether to lodge the appeal, it was dealt with via the urgency action process that the council has. And in line with our usual customs, that will ultimately now be reported back to members with all the other urgency actions which have been taken in the last period. And a report will come to the Cabinet or the Cabinet Board on that shortly, just to confirm the outcome of that. But just to answer your question, it was dealt with via the urgency action process at the time.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Moving on, please, to Councillor Ken Phillips, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions, really. The first is, looking at the school's organisation code, there's two different outlines of consultation specifications. one of 28 days and one of 42 days, 20 of which must be school days. Can you just please take us through those, what they mean, how they apply in this case to the timescales?
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Andrew Thomas, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Certainly, Councillor Phillips. The 42 days refers to the process that we're asking permission to embark on at the moment, which is the consultation phase. It has to be a minimum of 42 days. If we do get permission today, we'll go out and consult, and we'll bring a consultation report back to members, which will detail what the consultation has said and obviously officers' responses to the consultation detail. That report then will, if we want to progress with the proposal, ask for permission to move to the next stage, which is the period for statutory objection. And that point, I always remind people that if they have commented during the consultation phase and commented in terms of they don't wish the proposal to go ahead, if they want their comments in the statutory objection period to be recorded, they would need to comment again. So if that has to be 28 days exactly, and that's the difference. It's, if you like, it's the two stages of the statutory code procedures.
Thank you, Andrew. Very clear. Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a very clear explanation. My second question was looking at the four underlying principles and in the code, and the consultation being undertaken when proposals are still at a formative stage. Now, we've had a clarification via email from Alison Thomas, so my thanks for that. That it means before a decision is made, and confirming that this is an entirely fresh process, so the previous plans don't apply. That being the case, though, I'm a little confused as to why we are going ahead with what is a fresh process on the basis of essentially going to a new consultation on the previous proposals before there's actually been a sort of full and wider review of those previous proposals, and whether that this is ultimately going to be the proposal that the council may want to take forward to a consultation phase and beyond. It just seems that we're rushing slightly into repeating this previous consultation exercise before we've done a wider review of the full background of the decision. And I was wondering if you could take me through the decision-making process there.
Certainly.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Andrew Thomas, please.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you. I think the process that you're thinking about, Councillor Phillips, is the process that we're asking for permission to embark on now. The code requires us to do certain things, and part of that is to look at various options, and they're detailed within the report. And having done that, we are required then to consult on a proposal. But as you said at the start, you realise that no decisions have been taken. In fact, the only decision today is permission to consult. So we need to test that thinking with the public, so that all the options that we've included and have excluded, if you like, in terms of the proposal, they can, members of the public can say, well, actually, you've got it wrong here. You haven't considered X, Y, and Z. And part of that consultation report that we are required to bring back to members at the next stage will flesh out any comments, any ideas, any issues that we may have got wrong at the sort of formative stage, and that might lead us at the next stage to abandon the proposal. I don't want to refer to the last process, but I'm going to, just for ease of reference here. During the last process, that didn't happen, which is why we continued with it. But that's not to say that that won't happen this time. Maybe people will come forward with better ideas, better proposals that we haven't thought of, that we need to give proper consideration to, which we've given a commitment to in terms of, well, we always give that commitment because that's the meaningful part of the consultation. So, as I say, no decision's been taken, Councillor Phillips, and this is the formative stage, really, and it's the way the code works.
Thank you, Andrew. Would you like to respond, Councillor Phillips, please?
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. My concern is rather that the report before us is very much supportive of the same proposal as previously, but doesn't really contain a full evidenced assessment of other alternatives. It has a small section in which some other alternatives are discussed and dismissed, a very small desktop exercise, but it's not really a wider review of the whole strategy and subject and a full consideration of what options there may be. That we've sort of missed the stage by continuing with the previous proposal without going back to fully review all of the circumstances and all of the context of the recommendation in the report.
Andrew Thomas again, please.
Thanks. I don't think we've missed the stage. I think this is the process, if you like, that the code requires us to undertake. You talked about a small section. I think there are 14 other options which we've considered, and as you quite rightly say, we've chosen not to pursue as the preferred proposal. But those 14 options that we've detailed, if the public think any of those are better than the current proposal which we're consulting on, or indeed if there is any other proposal that they think we should fully work up, then that's what we will do as part of this consultation exercise.
Thank you, Andrew.
So I don't think we've missed the stage.
Okay.
This is about exploring all the options around the delivery of education in the Swansea Valley, but we are required to consult on a proposal, which is obviously the one listed in the report.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Phillips, have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It is just a concern around the lack of detail and the lack of background evidence on other potential options that worries me, that within the report itself. But thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Next up then, could we have please Councillor Carol Clement-Williams, please?
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to say this, but after what Councillor Phillips has just said, would it be possible to get some information to members that weren't in the who weren't in council during 20?
Sorry, Carol, we've lost you a moment. You drifted out. Can you try again? Okay, we'll move on a little bit, and hopefully Councillor Carol Clement-Williams will be able to rejoin us shortly. Okay. Next up is actually. Oh,
hello.
Sorry, Carol. Councillor Clement-Williams, then please.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I got removed or something. Sorry, yeah.
Yes, I think what we'll do is we'll move on. I've got an item or two items myself to bring up. Reading the report, I just want to clarify, what was the main reason why Reed of Row School was removed from the original planning? I was just wondering, that's all. It was named initially, and I couldn't see clearly why they weren't still included. Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. The outline business case that members approved last week for Band C, I think it was last week, the way this sort of process works is we'll submit that to Welsh Government, and hopefully Welsh Government will approve that. And then the detailed work starts around looking what these proposals should be. And when we did this, pardon me, for the Swansea Valley.
Oh, bless you. Sorry.
Sorry, did I just deafen you with my thoughts? When we worked up the proposals for the Swansea Valley, if you remember, it first started life as a proposal for a 3 to 16 school, including Cwmtawi. But we did do some initial consultation prior to the last process, and that led us to drop the proposal around 3 to 16, and so it retained a primary status only. But also it was one of size in the main chair, just the size of the school. We have to take a sort of professional view about what's an optimum size for a school in a certain area, and I think including the pupils of Reader Row probably tipped us into thinking that it was developing too big a school. So that's why we didn't consult with it. But of course, during the last consultation process, people from Reader Row or anybody else were at liberty to, raise the view that Reader Row should be included. Nobody did, but that's the whole intention of the consultation process.
Thank you, Andrew. Very clear. That's excellent. Thank you. I just was wondering when I read the report, I just wasn't quite clear why they'd been removed.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
The other one is actually on the timing of the consultation. Obviously, I want to make sure we get the consultation right more than anything. And I know another delay may come forward. Is there any restriction on when we have to start the actual consultation period, please?
There is. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, if I'm really honest, but I think, I've seen some questions coming through from members suggesting that we start the consultation after Christmas. That wouldn't be a problem, because I think there is a restriction in terms of the decision being taken to consult and then starting the consultation. But certainly if we started after Christmas, I'm pretty sure we'd be fine in terms of that aspect. My concern delaying the consultation is that it would have an impact on the implementation date for the school, should that be the position we're in at the end of the process. We're already following a very tight timescale, and I know you might think that delaying consultation for a month wouldn't delay the implementation of a school by a year, but because of planning processes, and more specifically some of the surveys that need to be undertaken at certain times of the year, particularly the ecological surveys, the transport surveys that are required for planning permission, if that's where we end up, delaying the consultation for a month could have the impact of delaying the school for a whole year, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Andrew. I take on board that. Obviously, we're just discussing consultation at the moment, and I'm a bit concerned with us straddling Christmas, that will we end up with meaningful and thorough consultation if we went ahead sort of straddling either side of Christmas? And I am concerned that I don't think we will, to be honest. Having worked in schools myself, I think we need to give the parents a proper opportunity during term time, I think. I don't know what the way forward, but I think I'll probably be moving an amendment to move the start date to the 9th of January. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Clement Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm on my iPad now, so hopefully everything will be okay. Sorry, I was just asking, would it be possible for Andrew to give previous members some background? But that was as a result of Councillor Phillips's question. And again, as a result of Councillor Phillips's question, was wondering that, Andrew, the appeal and what they won the appeal on was the Welsh language hadn't been dealt with within that consultation. However, can you explain to those members that were here whether we took into account the Welsh language provision at the time? Because it was my understanding that we had already dealt with the Welsh language provision throughout the borough. And then I've got another question when you've answered that.
Unfortunately, Andrew.
Yeah, it's probably better if Craig answers that question, because I don't want to err sort of in legalese. So Craig is probably better to answer that question in terms of what the requirements and the decision of the judicial review was.
Thank you, Andrew. Over to Craig then, please.
Okay, thank you for that, Andrew. Passing it over to myself there. So basically what happened within the judicial review is that one of the grounds of challenge was that a Welsh language impact assessment document had not been included within the consultation document that was issued back in October 2020. There's a provision in the school organisation code which effectively says that where schools who could be affected by a proposal, it would ultimately then render the equivalent of needing a Welsh language impact assessment as part of the document. The approach that was taken previously is we did an assessment, obviously, and to look at which schools would ultimately be affected. But what the judge said is it was too perhaps high level an assessment, and if there was a possibility that schools could ultimately be impacted, then they needed to be included as part of that, and we needed to include a Welsh language impact assessment. So that was the basis of the outcome of what the judicial review was on. Now, from an officer and a member perspective, when the decision was taken previously, Welsh language impact assessments were included as part of the decision-making process, and they were actively considered at the same time. What the judicial review looked at was whether that should have been included in a consultation document when that was issued to the public, and that was the reason then, obviously, the decision was ultimately taken to quash the previous decision.
Thank you, Craig. So, Chair, after that response to my question, can I then have a secondary question, please?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Clement-Williams.
Thank you. So, just for members, again, that weren't here, although we did take into account the Welsh language in all our decision-making, it was the opposition that decided to appeal against that decision on the just because basically there was a document missing out of the consultation. What would it mean if the decision now went the other way and it was decided not to build the school? What would that mean for the pupils of Godra Graig, and how much longer would they be stuck in porta cabins and needing to, because I saw a complaint, or we had complaint that they were in porta cabins and they had to go through the cold and snow to get a hot meal in the school opposite. And bearing in mind the urgent item later on, with the state of the swimming pool in Pontardawe, would that mean then the Pontardawe would lose their swimming pool because we haven't got the funds to build a new swimming pool if it's not included in this school? Thank you.
Point of order here, Chair, please.
Thank you. Come back in, please. Point of order, please, Leader, Councillor Stephen Hunt.
Can I just go back on what Councillor Clement-Williams said, that the opposition appealed the decision? Can I have Craig to clarify? This is not the case, and it is a point of order, so I don't want that recorded because it's totally inaccurate. Thank you.
Over to Craig, please.
Yes, just to confirm, the actual judicial review was lodged by a parents group called Parents for Welsh Medium Education, RAG, as it's commonly known. They were the claimants in the judicial review that was ultimately brought. So just to make that clear.
I see. Apologies then, Councillor Hunt.
Sorry. So thank you, Councillor Clement-Williams. If we could have Neath, please.
No, that's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you. I just wanted to raise that point of order that Leader did.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Andrew, it's back to you again. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very much the same answer as I gave earlier to Sonia. Obviously, if we get to the end of this process and members obviously decide that they don't wish to progress with the proposal we're consulting on, it'll very much depend on what members decide they do want, and depending what that is, will have an impact on how long pupils and staff will be in the temporary accommodation at the Cwmtawi site. So until we know what that is, it's impossible to say what the timescales are. So unfortunately, I can't give you an answer, but whatever happens, it is likely the fastest. The quickest way to get the pupils from Godra Graig into, if you like, established schools is to disperse the pupils and put them into the existing schools in the Swansea Valley. Now, that's not something that we've ever advocated for. When we had to close the Godra Graig school, we could have done that at that point, or we certainly could have recommended it. We always wanted to keep the community of Godra Graig together, which is why we invested millions of pounds in temporary accommodation and setting up the school. And I suspect that's still our professionally our view. But that would be without doubt, if this process fails, if you like, the proposal fails and falls, and something else is decided, that is one option that we'd have to consider, because it is the quickest way to get children back into, if you like, established schools. But we'll have to wait and see what all the various options that come forward during the consultation are, and what members decide ultimately.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Councillor Clement Williams, please, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Chair. And once again, apologies, Councillor Hunt. Thanks.
Thank you both. Councillor Rebecca Phillips, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Certainly supporting that point of order that the leader and the cabinet member brought forward. I mean, as a new administration, we're just trying to right the wrongs here, and I think we do need to focus our minds on this committee, that we're considering the report and the decision before us today. I'm quite surprised, actually, that certain members want to revisit old ground here, but I would just like to emphasise to members that the decision is here to make, and I don't think we need to, go around the houses here, really, and questions are valid, but I think statements now should really be brought to a close. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Suzanne Patterson, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's subjective whether decisions are right or wrong. Councillors made those decisions. They cannot be deemed right or wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item, please? I cannot see any hands any further. I think we'll move. Can I move the amendment? Yeah. I think we'll move on to, I'd like to table an amendment, please, to the start date for the consultation period. I propose moving the start date from the 5th of December to the 9th of January, and then having 42 days from the 9th of January on for public consultation and parent consultation. I propose it. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Councillor James Henton. Thank you. Just having a little check. Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain? Yeah, no problem. Sorry. Councillor Sonia Reynolds, please.
We just have absolute confirmation from the director that that will not cause a massive delay to the implementation of any plan going forward, and therefore possibly result in more time in temporary accommodation, whatever the outcome of the review. Thank you.
Andrew, please.
Yeah, well, sorry, Sonia, but quite, as I said earlier, it's quite the reverse. I do believe that a delay in the consultation will have the impact that you just said. So it's not something that officers would recommend to cabinet, but obviously members are at liberty to decide what they see fit. So.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Reynolds, would you like to come back, or are you happy?
In that case, we will have to, I'm afraid, contest that amendment. Thank you.
No problem. We go for, sorry, Councillor Suzanne Patterson, sorry.
Suggestion, Chair, that's all. I've no objection to increasing a consultation. I mean, if we want a consultation and it's over Christmas, I think we even came to that decision ourselves. I can't remember exactly when, but if you wanted to start it at the proper time and then extend it, as long as it didn't interfere with the end date, I think we'd be happy with that. I'm just, do you know what I mean? Rather than delay the start date, start the consultation, but then maybe extend it up to any point that wouldn't interfere.
I think we're at that point, though, aren't we? Okay. The point I'm making is that we have allowed some days for Christmas, but I don't know whether, having worked in a school myself, I know that the run up through December is probably the worst time ever to consult with any parents on anything. Okay, that's why, having been in education, that's why I'm suggesting it. Okay, is there anybody here who'd like to abstain, please? Okay.
I can see no abstentions, Chair.
Thank you, Alison. And members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet. On the amendment, sorry. They voted on the amendment, we are, sorry.
If I could just confirm, members, we are now voting on the amendment, and the amendment is to support the recommendation with the amendment that the consultation is to start on the 9th of January 2023 and to last for 42 days. So if I can ask members first if there are any abstentions on the amendment, please. I can see no abstentions. Chair, if you'd like to vote on the amendment.
Okay, if you'd like to vote on the amendment, then please.
Chair, you haven't asked anyone against the resolution.
So we just about to do
We're just moving to that now, Councillor Jones. So members,
Okay.
if you do not indicate to the contrary, then we will take it that this amendment is accepted. Do we have any indications to the contrary, please? So this is essentially voting against the amendment. I can see 5 indications voting against. 6 indications voting against.
Neutral.
Yeah, so I can
If you
confirm
lower your hands, then please.
So I can confirm then that the amendment has been carried. The amendment will now become part of the substantive recommendation, and I would ask members to vote again, please. So just to confirm, the recommendation is now as listed, with the consultation to start on the 9th of January 2023 and to last for a period of 42 days. I would ask, are there any abstentions on this recommendation, please? I can see no abstentions, Chair. So now, members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then we will take it that this recommendation is supported to Cabinet. Do we have any indications to the contrary? To confirm, this is members who are voting against. I can see no indications, Chair, so I can confirm this recommendation with the amendment is now supported to Cabinet.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, everyone. Obviously, a long item, that one. We move now on to the urgent item. I have one urgent item, Pontedowie swimming pool, emergency works, which was circulated yesterday. Members will find it on pages 1 to 118 of the supplementary agenda. Do officers have anything to add, Andrew?
Not really, the Chair, other than just thank members for taking this report on an urgency basis. Obviously, the report has been considered that we commissioned. We commissioned the report, just to be clear, on the back of when the new administration came into power. They said they wanted to review the decision around the Swansea Valley, so we recommissioned surveys around the 3 schools and Pontedowie swimming pool, which is what you'd expect us to do, because we knew we'd be taking forward a proposal. So yeah, this report deals with the finance aspect of it, and the amounts are mentioned in the report. And if we're to reopen the pool after Christmas, so towards the end of January, then this level of funding, this level of work is required. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll move on to questions. I have one before me already. Councillor Tim Bowen, please. Councillor Tim Bowen, are you on the line?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Problems with my laptop. I've only got a couple of questions regarding the costing of it. One was when the contractor ARP was asked to do the review, there's no costing on that particular one. And also, after the 2-year life of these pads, what is going to happen then? Is work going to be started during this time? And that's my questions, please.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Can I move over to Andrew, please?
Yeah, certainly in terms of your first question, I don't know what the cost, I think you're asking what the cost of the condition survey was. Is that, I don't know what that is, but I can find out for you, Councillor Bowen, certainly, and circulate that to you. The answer to your second question is that the works that's listed in the report are very much temporary in nature. The report says that the remedial work will be good for a maximum of 2-year period. At that time, we've got 2 choices: substantial refurbishment work is undertaken, and the report speaks of the cost of that work is likely to be cost prohibitive. In other words, the cost of the work would be more than the value of the asset, or replace the pool. So the works that we are talking about funding now are not a long-term option. They're very much a short-term option to keep the facility open.
Okay, could I ask just one more question, Chair, please?
Certainly, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, we're talking the full cost with the pads and everything going in of nearly £141,000 over the 2-year period, plus the ARUP, whatever they've charged. So that could take that up considerable. And then after 2 years, we still don't know what we're going to do with the baths. Don't get me wrong, I'm not opposing it. It's just, I spent a lot of time over there with my children. It just seems a lot of money at the moment. Just, when we're talking about the budget.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the quick maths in my head. I suppose, when you talk about the monthly cost of hiring, there was sort of between 36 and 48,000 pounds a year times 2 plus the you're probably right in terms of the cost. Yeah, that is true.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you both. I've got a few more questions to be raised. Councillor Rebecca Phillips, please.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I'm sure I don't have to tell you all the importance of Pontardawe swimming pool to the community, to the whole of the Swansea Valley and further afield. I just wanted to ask really if we were seeking funding for a new pool separate in relation to the new school. Because in my opinion, building a new swimming pool shouldn't have to come in conjunction with the new school. We should be looking at alternative funding as well. So I'd just be grateful for information on that. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Andrew, please.
The simple answer to that question is no, because I'm not aware of anywhere that will fund a replacement swimming pool. Years ago, Sport Wales had lots of capital funding available to it, and there were facilities replaced and built as part of Sport Lot Capital. The Olympic Games pretty much saw the end of that, I'm afraid. So I'm not aware of any replacement, cash, grant that will fund the full cost of replacement of a swimming pool at the moment. I think Sport Wales capital limit at the moment is something like £50,000. It's so I'm not aware of any. We can do some research, obviously, but I'm pretty sure I'm on secure ground when I say there isn't another funding source.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Phillips, would you like to reply?
Yeah, it'd be great if we could maybe do some further research into that. It just seems a bit unfortunate to the community that in order to have a fully functional swimming pool in the valley that we have to be forced to have a new school. So yeah, I'd be grateful for that, Andrew. Thank you.
And Chair, I just noticed Paul Walker's in the chamber. I don't know if Paul is aware of any capital sources that might fund replacement swimming pools.
Thank you, Paul.
Sorry to give you a hospital pass, Mr. Walker.
Not a problem, used to it. Yeah, no, you're right. It's £50,000 capital with Sports Council. I will make some inquiries. We will contact the Sports Council, but I'm not aware of any major pots of money that could pay for a swimming pool at this moment yet.
Thank you both. Councillor Phillips, you happy for him to go ahead and look into it?
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Councillor Anthony Richards, please.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. I did actually take my hand down because Councillor Phillips asked a similar question to what I was going to ask. But I just will add, can we just seek reassurance that the pool will reopen ASAP? Lots of people in the community are very concerned about this. So I just want to seek those reassurances.
Thomas, please.
Well, obviously, the purpose of the report today on an urgency basis is to ask for funding for the remedial work to be undertaken, which the consultants have said is required to open or maintain the facility. So I don't see any reason that once that work is undertaken, if members approve the funding today, that the pool can't reopen as soon as that work is undertaken. And I think we've had some assurances from the contractor that I think it's a 3-week period for doing the work, but obviously then there's the design work and planning for that as well, plus Christmas, of course. So hence the proposed date of the end of January.
Thank you, Andrew. Very clear. Are we happy with that, Councillor Richards?
Yeah, great. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Diolch, David. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I fully support the proposals today to sort of carry out this temporary work to keep the facility open. But I do have sort of, well, quite a lot of concerns really in terms of how bad the structure was allowed to deteriorate to, the extent of which that's happened. The report is quite, some of the pictures are quite shocking actually. So I appreciate we've perhaps got colleagues, you know, from education leisure rather than maybe building services or our surveyors here. And I also appreciate that the liability and responsibility, you know, fell between and jointly with Celtic and us. But in a particular concern, I suppose, is the fact that it appears that some of the recommendations from the 2014 report are still outstanding in 2022. And although maybe I'm not expecting answers today, I as a member, I'm sure and others would like some reassurance or some explanation as to what's happened in this case, whether perhaps we were carrying out our own less formal surveys with our own team that are not reflected in this report. I'm not really sure, but on the face of it, it's quite concerning that the structure was allowed to deteriorate to that extent. And also the time gap between those two formal inspections seems quite significant as well. Obviously, we've got a lot of assets in Neath Talbot of a significant age, and it's concerning. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Percy. Andrew Thomas again, please.
Yeah, I certainly share Councillor Percy's concerns around not just Ponderhouse and Bull, but I suspect the risks that we bear as a council. So I think it's probably best if this is picked up with, as you say, the building surveying team and Director of Environment, because we're talking about Ponderhouse and Bull at the moment, but I guess there's risks right across the council. And I think it's probably important that members understand what those risks are, because this will not be unique.
Thank you, Andrew. Can I bring now Chief Executive Karen in, please?
Thank you, Councillor Percy. I'm going to just talk in general terms rather than about the specifics. But it is a fact that the council has a large infrastructure and we have absolutely insufficient funds to be able to maintain all of those structures to the standard that we would want to do that. So we do have condition surveys and asset management plans, which you may well be aware of, I think, from sitting on the Environment Committee. But it is absolutely the case that we have insufficient capital or revenue funding to be able to maintain any of our structures really to the standard that we would expect to do. And I note that in the Senate yesterday, there were similar questions being asked of Cardiff City Council in relation to consultations they're undertaking on the future of St David's Hall at the moment. So I think that's generally been the position for as long as I've worked in the council, and that's over 20 years now. I think what we often see as well when we get grant funding is the grant funding is directed towards new infrastructure. So we see that particularly with the schools programme, given that we're talking about that today. And what we know is that the condition of the existing school infrastructure that we've got that are not subject of change proposals is actually deteriorating with time, because there isn't the investment funding available to be investing in what we've got. The funding tends to generally be available for new and shiny things. So I'm not sure what we can do about that. I think in terms of the specifics on the leisure pool particularly, we can go away, we can have a look at why there was a gap between the inspections on that. But I suspect the reason why the school has been drawn into the Swansea Valley school proposals is that there is an opportunity to replace that pool within that envelope of funding tied to the idea of a health provision, wellbeing provision within that campus facility. So I guess what people have tried to do when they've been bringing those proposals forward is to think creatively about how we can address some of the legacy problems we've got around infrastructure, but just really to try and address it through funding within other programmes. So it's probably not a satisfactory answer, but unfortunately, as members, you are managing and holding a considerable amount of risk right across the whole of our infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Karen. Councillor Percy, would you like to respond, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate that, Karen. And I absolutely, in my time on the Regen Committee, this is a particular issue that I flagged up in terms of capacity around our surveying team, and intervals between building inspections is something that we've discussed on previous occasions. But I guess in terms of what I'm, I suppose, drawing attention to is members. Yeah, we are carrying a lot of risk as an authority, but it's understanding the nature of that risk requires us to be inspecting and have the data and know what we're managing, and it feels like there's a bit of work to be done there to be confident that we're aware of what the risks actually are. I appreciate there's not always going to be the money to fix everything and maintain everything to the standard it should be. That I completely accept. But in terms of, is it worth us investing in the capacity to actually understand where the risks are and what actions we need to take? I feel that is something we've really got to take a really good look at. And if members haven't read and seen this report and looked at the pictures, and officers haven't, I would urge you to, because it's quite shocking.
Thank you, Councillor Percy. Can I bring Chief Executive Karen back in, please?
Just going to make a suggestion back, Councillor Percy, as well, given that you're chair of the Environment Scrutiny Committee. I confuse myself about the titles of all these committees these days. They change so many times. But I think it is a very significant area of the council's responsibilities, the kind of asset management plans. So it may well be in the new year now that the committees have settled down or settling down in terms of this administration. You might want to think about asking for some advice to be brought back into the committees. You can have a look at that and perhaps offer up some recommendations then maybe to the executive. So just encourage you really to have a think about doing that.
Thank you, Karen. Very clear. Are there any more questions on this item, please? Councillor Sonia Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about the use of the pool over the next, or the use of facilities over the next 2 months. We have at Pontardawe Swimming Pool, there are a number of very active groups involved. There's the Celtic Dolphins, who have swimming competitions going forward. On the 11th is the next one. They were planning to train all weekend. I fully understand the need to do the work on the pool and fully support what has to happen there. But we've got these young people who are committed to qualifying, moving forward with their, with their chosen sport, and a real need to make sure that young people get those opportunities. Alongside that, it is the largest swimming school, I believe, in the county borough, based at Pontardawe, and we need to help those move forward during the period of time when the pool is closed. Is there any consideration of arrangements to make way and assist those groups? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Very good point. Can I move over to Mr. Paul Walker, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Reynolds raised this to me when I came in the chamber earlier. I have emailed the Chief Executive of Celtic Leisure on that very question. And just as Councillor Reynolds started speaking, I got a response. We are looking to see if we can accommodate the swimming club in an early morning session at Neath Leisure Centre by sectioning off 2 of the 3 of the lanes from the public. So they are looking at it, Councillor Reynolds. When I get more detail, I will get back to you. I think it should also be noted, Chair, that we would have been closing down swimming pools in December because of the Christmas break. But Celtic are actively looking to see how they can accommodate. Another point, Chair, if I could, I think it should be noted that I've had some positive feedback this morning, quite a bit actually, about the response of the staff of the Pontardawe Swimming Pool yesterday. Obviously, members of the public were coming in. It had hit the press yesterday, tea time, and I've been told the manager in particular of the swimming pool and his duty team dealt with it very professionally and very positively, Chair. So, we are quick to criticise, but I think when we have a good news story, I think we should share it as well, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. Most definitely, we could pass on your thanks from all the council, really, to the staff there in a difficult situation. So thank you very much. Councillor Reynolds, do you want to come back?
Just to say thank you to Paul for quick action on a very quick, as usual. I know it could depend on him. And yeah, I had some of the feedback I had from parents was that they'd been talking to staff at the pool and they'd been really helpful. So I would agree with Paul on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Are there any more questions now on this urgent item, please? Okay, I can't see anybody. So what I'm quite happy to propose this recommendation. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Rob Jones, thank you very much. Members, please indicate if they wish to abstain. Alison will confirm if there are any abstentions.
I can't see any abstentions, Chair.
Thank you, Alison. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet.
I can't see any indications to the contrary, so the recommendation is supported to Cabinet.
Thank you, Alison. Just one little item. If we go back to item 4 on our agenda, it's for noting the forward working programme. It's just for noting, okay? That leaves me with no further items. That ends the business for today. I'd like to say a big thank you to Andrew Thomas. Obviously, he's come off his sick bed just to be here, and we've got our money's worth out of him today, that's for sure. Thank you, Andrew, for all the answers to the questions. And diolch yn fawr, pawb.